Hello, everyone. Hello to Simulation Talk 271. How everybody doing today? Hopefully great. Let's get this party started. What's up, Yoni? Chris, Guru. Good to see you guys. Appreciate you, Guru. Very helpful. Thank you. I'll just put this here where we need it most. Beautiful. I know you already put it here. I'll just put it as another reminder. Codeofreality.com is our website. Codeofreality.com. Welcome everyone on TikTok as well. All people are just slowly joining in. Good to see everyone. Let's get you situated here. How was everybody's day? How's Canada treating you, Chris? I think Discord, honestly, it's not, our Discord group is not that live during the weekly lives. I don't know if we should keep doing them. I'll open the stage one more time, but I feel like people are not necessarily joining it, so it might be an overkill, but let's join one more. There you go. We have a stage open on Discord. If you guys are there, come on. If not, all good. I'd like Chris to speak per usual. Thank you, Bjorky. That is so lovely. Hey, Chris, how are you, brother? Can't really hear you. Not sure why. Discord and shenanigans, I guess. Hello, hello, hello. Oh. Come on, jump on. TikTok is so crazy sometimes. What's up, Maurice? Welcome, everybody who are joining on TikTok. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Take your seat. Doing great, Jake. Good to have you. Good to see you. Okay, what should we get into today? Let's find out. If you want to help and join us on Twitch, it'll be LaserX83 on Twitch. LaserX83. Yeah, so from I don't know how it works again, but from 11 viewers last time, we only got to 2.5 average of people. I don't know how this works. 4 different days. Oh, we had 1 day. Okay. Well, let's see if we can bring it up today. I don't know. Maybe if we have 20 viewers for a long time on Twitch, maybe it'll work. But in any case, if you are on Twitch, come join us there, LaserX83. By the way, we got a message from Casey. I don't know if I can share it here, but he basically said, I can probably pull it up. Hold on. The guy who we were contributing money to. This is what he said. I'll post it here. So thank you, everybody who donated. This is a very lovely thing. What's up, Trip? Love you too. This is from Casey directly for all the donations we gave him. I will read it. Casey said, I thank you for the help. It has lended me with some significant connectivity and perhaps most importantly, protein. Anything I can do to forward that process while I begin final steps, let me know. It is appreciated. So this is a lot. Casey's usually not expressing much, so the fact that he texted this unprompted is very lovely. And I thank you guys for playing ball. We did a good thing. We helped somebody who was really of need, and we helped. We made a difference. Thank you, everybody.
Yo, can you hear me now?
Yeah, of course.
There we go. No, I was having troubles.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're here with us. Do you know any experiments done in the Netherlands? What's up, Bram? What a cool name, Bram Kunstein. First of all, are you talking about the laser experiments, or are you talking about experiments with the molecule in general? What's up, Nico? How are you, brother? Anybody who wants to come and chat, unless you came and chatted before and we know who you are, please drop a comment in the chat. What's up, Maya? Let us know what you want to chat about, and if it seems relevant, what we're doing at the moment, I'll bring you up. Laser, we don't really do them. Awesome. We don't really do them on as a traveling show, so to speak. We will have hopefully some clinical trials soon, but until that happens, we're more collecting data. We're making information available and then collecting data from people who are sharing their experiences. Everything, you can find all the protocol and everything on codeofreality.com. And you can join our Discord community, in which people are sharing a lot of these ideas. You can find the link to our Discord community in our link tree here on TikTok, and also on YouTube. And our community is not enormous, so actually it feels pretty cozy, to be quite honest. So it's still in a place where interactions are very personal. So I highly encourage everybody to come on. There you go. What's up, Kathy? Kathy from Oklahoma. Welcome. Chris, how are you, brother? How's Canada?
Been good, man. We've just been chilling lately. Haven't been doing much, but no, I'm glad I'm here.
Is it really warm right now?
Ebony, yeah, I know, it's boiling out. Ebony's at work today, though, so you've just got me and Guru.
Well, awesome. I mean, it's still wonderful. Still love you guys. The laser guy, yeah. Tonus, 86. Yeah, Bram. So connect with us on Discord. We have a lot of stuff to share. So thank you so much for the likes. I appreciate that. All right. I think we feel like we're building the crowd again on TikTok slowly. Finally have, instead of 3-4 people up here, we have like sometimes 10-20 people up here, which is, again, still crazy in comparison from before. It was like hundreds. I don't know what happened. Maybe we were too good. That's what happened. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Wait, let me amplify the light. Do you like my nostrils? Here we go. Boom. Morgan is saying the data in the laser is a holographic image that gains mass around pi of sphere ice nucleation points. I wish, Morgan, I would know what some of these things mean. Gains mass. So first of all, how can a holographic image gain mass? And around what is pi of... you mean the pi of a sphere? Pi is always the same, so it doesn't matter if it's of a sphere, right? Ice nucleation point, I don't know what that is. You mean like the instance of phase transition? What's up, Trip? Let's see what we got here. So again, I just want to emphasize this. In the last few days, I was encouraging people to donate $1 for individual, and well, it was one individual in this case, but it's going to be many other individuals from this point on that I've identified personally that they are really of need. It's kind of, one of the problem with when you're donating money to charity and things like this is that very often, unfortunately, you don't really know where the money goes. And as it has been proven recently, and really it was a known fact, to be quite honest, so it's not really news, you'll be surprised. About 90% of what people donate goes to the charity and not to the people that are charity for. And people would always say, yeah, but it's for operations. Nah, that shouldn't be the case, yo. So no. And even the Red Cross is known to pocket quite a bit of money. So What I decided to do is we're going to kind of do our own thing, even though it's very, very small. But we know, or at least you will know, where every dollar goes. Every single dollar that you guys are donating for this cause, we're not keeping any of it. It goes directly to the person of need. And I'm personally identifying these people truly are of need. So in this case, we were contributing to an individual by the name of Casey, who was surviving with very, very little. Sometimes I know it's sad, but sometimes he would go, a couple of days without eating and without shelter. But it is a person who is, educated and not somebody who was just like a slacker his whole life, but he encountered a rough patch, and he was kind of like wandering throughout South America and Mexico, Central America, and trying to survive on the least he can. And his overhead, like with everything he needs a month, is about $150 with food, with staying in places and things like this. Because he goes for the very cheap, options. And in the last few days, we raised a little bit under that. I think like $110 or something, thanks to the charity of the wonderful open heart of our community. And that made a huge difference for someone like Casey. And he said thank you to us. And now we can still keep raising a little bit more for Casey, but after that we can do other individuals. And I figured, because there's quite a bit of people showing up for these lives, it's really not going to break our pockets. I mean, of course, if it will, please don't donate. But throughout the live, I'm going to keep reminding you, and I'm going to remind you at the end as well. And if you have $1 to spare, and you can spare $1 even every 10 days, because sometimes we have 100 people here in the chat, if like different people at different days donate $1 every 10 days, every 5 days, every 20 days, doesn't matter, we can make quite a bit of difference for some people. And eventually we will be working on bringing this into a more streamlined thing, where we truly, through Code of Reality, actually helping a substantial number of people to kind of climb out of the situation. And hopefully we can be an entity that helps basically solve homelessness altogether. So this would be a wonderful dream to aim for. Now let's go back to our regular program. But again, thank you so much for all the people that donated. This is very appreciated. Danny! Well, I have affinity for this name. I've done 3 hits of off a vape. Only got like 2G mushroom feeling. What's your advice? I think it depends on the vape. It depends on the substance. It depends on your state. You just have to do more. If it works, just keep going. I mean, if you want to launch, of course. That would be the advice. What's up, Ellipsian? The desktop does not work for me. What does that mean, Yoni? What's up, Yoni? Andre Van Thomas saying what she's describing. Wait. What she's describing is influence of vibration. Oh, you're referring to Morgan? Yeah, I think Morgan is a guy. What he's describing is the influence of vibration caused by the hologram reaction with itself, which produces the new phenomena. What is a hologram reaction to what with itself? What is the reaction of? This is very vague, guys. I truly don't know what this means. Oh, thank you so much, Ellipsian. Where did you send it to? Which email? Is it Dango Prox? Mark is saying, God bless everyone here. Everybody here is such a good people. It seems that that's what keeps pulling me back. Well, Mark, that is a huge compliment to us and the channel. Appreciate you. The only place I feel safe is here. That's amazing. Couldn't follow the donation thing. Didn't get from the beginning. Just wanted to mention. All I'm saying that we were donating to individuals of need, and some people on YouTube donated, and that individual today DM'd me and said deep thank you for the help. So thank you everybody who donated. If you guys want to donate, unfortunately currently the only place to do it is on YouTube. That's the fastest, the easiest way. If you just donate on YouTube directly. Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts, and you can just donate in the chat, and I'm immediately sending that money to the people. So like, I'm not waiting, till the end of the month till YouTube sends me the money. I'm immediately sending them that money. That's in a nutshell. And Dango Thoughts is the channel, DANGO Thoughts. View count doesn't work. Maybe on YouTube it doesn't, but I'm seeing it on my own on StreamYard. Do I believe that our reality is a construct? Absolutely, bad daddy. It's a good handle, man. All right, let's approach some subjects, shall we? Let's see. Does anybody has any question that we want to dive into? Something juicy, something fun, but thoughtful. Let's have thoughtful questions. And yes, come join our Discord. Thank you for the reminder, Guru. I appreciate you. Thank you, Knowledge Within. Karen. Good to see everybody. Michael, John, thank you so much, Knowledge Within. Thank you for the likes, guys. I appreciate it. Do I think the designer of the construct is aware of what we do? Yes, absolutely. Has anyone tried the experiment using the last few years? Come back to nature, to body, remember. Wait. Well, I think it's two different questions that I mixed up. So, and through Thermonac, I guess? Or I'm probably misreading it. Sorry, my dyslexia is always intervening when it comes to this. Has anyone tried the experiment using more laser beams, different patterns instead of basic to a laser and a cross? It won't matter. Because it's not dependent on the shape of the laser. It's kind of like inside. Like it doesn't really matter as long as the light is diffracted. You would see the code inside, and the shape would just be the shape of the window. It won't matter one bit. Feels like yeah, it feels weird, like world twisting around last few years. Come back to nature, to body, remember. Well, you never leave nature. You're always part of nature. But yes, I second what you're saying. We should definitely remember our body and connect back to ourselves. Thank you for all the likes. I appreciate that. The all major religions point to consciousness being fundamental. Their Christianity, they believe in God, which is essence, is consciousness. Hinduism believes in Brahman, which is also consciousness. I think those are modern interpretations. I don't think that's what the Christians believe. I don't think necessarily the Christians believe that God, they believe that God is the source of everything. So it will be the source of everything that exists plus consciousness. But I don't think nobody's talking about how consciousness is fundamental, not fundamental. It is fundamentally not a central question to Christianity. Same with Brahman. I mean, I would say that in Eastern traditions in general, there's a lot more emphasis on the nature of consciousness and how consciousness is everything there is, but nowhere is it mentioned explicitly. So I think these are more modern interpretations. They're not necessarily wrong, but if you ask the people who actually believe these things, especially Christians, traditional Christians, this would not be one of the central questions. The only question is, do you follow Jesus or you don't? This still does not work correctly. Strange that links from Ebony work when she does it, but oh yeah, it doesn't allow links, Yoni. You can drop it in Discord. Is it possible the code is more of a message being beamed into the space, like a way NASA would beam radio wave into space? It's possible, but I would say it's less plausible because of the way it presents itself. It seems to be always there. So as I spoke with Gallimore, and you guys haven't seen this conversation yet because it will only be released in the film itself, but we kind of agreed that it is very likely that what it would be is that it's some kind of a fundamental pre-recorded message, so to speak, which kind of gives you know, an interesting Star Wars kind of vibe to the whole situation. Mine and Habibi. Religion is false, spirituality is real. I would say those are two different perspectives of looking at the same thing. I would not say that is correct. I know it's a known trope, but I think it's hugely overstated. Contact vibes, exactly. Nico, how are you, brother? Come on, let's have some chat about something fun. You always stimulate my mind, man. We have not tried the experiment with night vision yet. No. What are we apologizing for? James is saying Gallimore has said that the idea, probably of a computer allows you to access the console, which shows the code that generates the page. Oh wait, it just keeps jumping on me, so my eyes miss it. Gallimore said that the idea of a code being embedded within a simulation himself doesn't make much sense. It does. I understand that he said that, but it actually makes perfect sense. I don't know why we would expect super advanced civilizations to do things the way we think it should be done. If you would be automating a system that's going to be simulating infinite worlds, the best, I would claim, architecture of this whole thing would be to have some kind of a system where the code that runs the system is embedded in the walls of the system. So it's literally embedded in the system itself. So it makes perfect sense to me. However, the context menu on a computer allows you to access the console, which shows the code that generates the page. However, the context menu on a computer allows you to access the console, which shows the code that generates the page. Well, I hear what you're saying, but the interface does not necessarily show you the code. It just kind of shows you what you need to see in order to interact with it. At no point is it showing you the code unless you're the one writing the code. See, bro, sorry, I'm confused. What do Christians define God as, if not consciousness? Very far from that. Christians would ask any Christian. They would tell you that God is the all in all, like the perfect being, the perfect everything. Obviously, everything emanates from God, according to Christians. So human consciousness and any other kind of consciousness would be as well. God would have consciousness, but it's nowhere a regular teaching in Christianity that God is consciousness. God is God. It has no other redefinition. God is not love. God is not none of these new age ideas. God is God. God can love. God is the perfect being, according to Christians. They define God as everything. Wouldn't God need to be conscious? No, he would not need to be consciousness. No. It would have consciousness. Wait, sorry, I'm a little bit delayed. But just to clarify, apologies for my misunderstanding of gender. Second, oh, okay. That's talking to Bad Daddy. Let me pull this up. So in essence, a hologram can interfere with another hologram. Sure, but not with itself. So you're saying that the hologram that it is being interfered by us? Is that what is being explained? Yeah, the same code shows up on people as well. It seems to be just in every point in space. I think it's some kind of a fundamental field. Yeah, the Z theory about the steps new to the channel would like to email you to review. So Andre, you can always email me a theory, but I'll be honest, what we're currently looking at the project and interested in is actual some data that comes out of experimentation. The thing is, there are as many theories as there are people, and sometimes they have like minute perturbations. And very often, I'm not saying necessarily your theory has this quality, but very often people think they come up with something novel, but the truth is that this was already an idea that existed in physics for 100 years. And it's fine, it's beautiful, but we're interested in things that we can do something with. These extravagant ideas are very common, and when I have time, I love going through them. But I would be misleading you if I would tell you that this is at the center of our attention. What is in the center of our attention is does anybody has a frame, theoretical or experimental, that we can do something with, execute, try, replicate. Those are the things we're trying to do. By the way, if you guys have a well formulated idea or a thing that you want to bring up, you can always join our Discord group, and you can come to the stage right now on Discord, which is open, and I can bring you up and you can chat, or on TikTok on Danny Goller. That would be easier for you. Do you have a video stating our goals, desires? We are working not on a video, but on a repository of all the stuff that was already done. How are you doing? Good to see you. And also what's going to be there is all the stuff that needs to be done still, and then people can kind of take it upon themselves to do it. I think it'll be a wonderful collaborative project. Tonus is saying, may I ask you what your final opinion is on looking behind the letters or more directly through the wall? I don't know. I have no idea. We have no idea what it is. We know it's some kind of a mega structure of some sort. That's all we know. Nico promised to join in a minute. I'll send you an invite in the meanwhile. And then you can join whenever. Jake is saying, so if you're getting very curious, have you tried seeing if the code reacts to sound of different frequencies, whether in an audible range or not? Yes, and so far it doesn't seem to be doing anything. We don't know. Code seems to just be there. Ark is saying, if we are in a simulation, it raises the question of whether the creators are also in the simulation, leading to an infinite regress of simulations. AI help? It's funny. So first of all, yes, that is correct. And it is in fact the case. Also, don't forget that infinite regress is only a problem for philosophers who like to be able to contend with an idea to a finite degree. But if the reality is that things are infinite, then big whoop, then it is the case. It's a faulty reasoning in philosophy because you can't do anything with it. So they choose to only interact with ideas that don't have this property so they can actually do something with it. But if in fact the universe is infinite in any way, then philosophers don't get to say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, sorry, that's how it is. So if it is the case, it is the case. So it is true that you have these infinite simulations in the bound space that we're in. It sounds weird, I know, but we know that not all simulations are the same. And some simulations are larger than others. And if you've never heard this idea before, I know it just sounds like, what are you even talking about? But it's true. We actually have a whole mathematics called set theory that deals with this stuff, brought about by a famous and brilliant mathematician by the name of Cantor, and who, by the way, had his mind completely demolished from it because he ended up in an insane asylum. But we are using set theory for quite a few things, including very important things. So we do know that some infinities are larger than others. So in our infinity, there is this infinite regress of all these simulations, but there is also infinities that are larger than that, which would include other beings that are probably running this layer. But what we're interested in is things that we can actually interact with. So the question becomes not so much what is the truth about the ultimate things, at least from our perspective, but what is any verifiable point that we can take and do something with, which is what physics is in the business of. What we're saying is that there is an opportunity now to bring it to this domain of experimentation versus just ideation, philosophy, theory. It's more functional now. What's up, Nico?
Hey, what's up, dude?
Turn you up.
How are things going?
Good. Just another day in paradise.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, it's cool. This is your full-time job. I mean, like thinking of the hard problems and all this is pretty cool to do full-time for sure.
Yeah, I'm taking it to the next level. I'm going to start I officially went back to because I used to write quite a bit and I haven't done it in a while and I'm pretty rusty. So I brought it back and I'm going to start releasing some articles, maybe do a, what's it called, Substack or something. But I forgot how interesting it is to translate vague ideas to specifics on the page. And it is a fun challenge. It's almost like working on a mathematical equation a little bit. Like, how do you arrange the information in a way that is both interesting and hits the point and keeps the reader's interest the whole time? So I like it.
Yeah, I've been, I usually get writer's block, where I just stare at the screen. And now with AI, it's kind of tricky because AI will add its own stuff to it, right?
Not unless you tell it not to.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes I just tell it organize this, into something. But yeah, I've been wanting to write without AI a lot more, where it's just stream of consciousness or just, I wish I could write a good first draft. That's the thing, is my first drafts always suck.
Well, a good trick for this is that what you're really practicing is not writing, but finding channels. Like if you think about it like that, and then very often from a particular state of being, the channels are not available. So what you practice, it's not like you can't write anything good, is that from that particular channel, you can't write anything good. So what you're doing is that you're constantly looking for the frequency to find that channel from which it just comes out. So it's not so much you're involved only in finding the channel. This is something you actually discover quite quickly on when you do Vipassana, that you all of a sudden you just find the channel because it's just kind of there. And then you're just constantly trying to find it. And when you're in your day-to-day, it depends on a lot of factors: sleep, amount of sugar in your blood, did you have good interactions with people, not good interactions, did you recently listen to things that really inspired you? There's a state that you can be in from which writing is very easy. So I think what good writers really do is that either they realize it or not, they become masters at finding that channel quickly. And then sometimes you would just sit there and all of a sudden you would find the channel. It's not always the same you. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm in the habit now is I would start, and when I have this stream of consciousness moment, I would just write in a way that the way that I would talk, and I'm not stopping at all. I don't care about grammar. I don't care about correcting errors. I just want to say the things. And sometimes I would do fun things, I would start the next sentence from a word that doesn't even make sense there, and somehow I still need to make the sentence make sense. And that kind of challenges the brain to be more creative. And also there's a flow, there's a rhythm. So if you just think of the rhythm, the way you hear it in your mind's eye, that really works for me well. If I hear the rhythm, so just imagine somebody you really like talking. I don't know who it would be, but someone you really like the way, but not just that you like their ideas, but I mean specifically you really like the way they're talking. Terrence McKenna, Sam Harris, doesn't matter who your favorite speaker is, then watch a couple of lectures by them and really kind of download it and then hear them saying what you're writing on the page. And then ask yourself, does that make sense in the way that they're doing it? Kind of in your mind's eye. And usually what would happen is all of a sudden it would start arranging itself in that pace. And all of a sudden it would have this flavor of interest that you feel like you're not even doing it. And then when you do it a couple of times, so if you do it every day for like a week, then you get in the habit of, oh, today I'm way off. Like I can't even find it. The next day it's kind of like 30% there. And all of a sudden one day it's like, oh my God, it's like 90% there, and then go down again. And then you find where's that average, right? And eventually from all of these attempts, there will also, I guess what writers call like your actual voice will come out. Like when I used to write more, like it was very clear what that is. And now I'm like, oh wait, like I actually can't find that. Like it's kind of there, but it's like very messy. But it's that voice that writes. It's not you. So all you got to do is find that voice. Now, yeah, I'm not sure if this is like super vague, but
you know what's interesting is if you read Sam Harris's Substack versus listen to him speak, it feels exactly the same.
Exactly the same.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
It's very impressive. I actually realized I was using his Waking Up app a lot, and then I never listened to his politics, but I started getting into his politics because I found that there was a sense of relief from just this very logical chain of thought that he kind of walks you through.
Mm-hmm.
But then now when I go back to his meditation, I'm like, it's so conflicted. These two worlds are too conflicted.
Yeah.
I feel like I have that same mindfulness that I used to have. So
you're right. I think that's a challenge for him, because the second you start involving yourself with political stuff, it is difficult to then know that you also have a meditation app, because if you don't agree with his politics, you're like, I feel conflicted. Like it's I think people who deal with meditation should stay completely neutral.
Yeah, I agree. Which is it's a very difficult thing to navigate. But you know, I had this thought yesterday, which was when I was a young kid, when I was like in college, I was obsessed with quantum mechanics, right? Like I thought quantum mechanics was like the fundamental reality, right? The fundamental layer. And so I was obsessed with, you know, quantum mechanics, quantum computers, and Bitcoin, right? Like that's all I would talk about for 10 years. And I got, you know, like with this recent Wolfram project, I realized I let go of this obsession with quantum mechanics. And I started realizing that in an analogy to fluid mechanics. So in fluid mechanics, there's a problem where like if you submerge a ball into a liquid and the liquid is flowing past the ball, for the most part, the ball has something called a laminar flow, right? So like the ball has streams of fluid flow through it, and it's very nice. There's very nice equations to describe that. But then if you look at the tail of, you usually get like eddy currents or turbulence if the flow is fast, right? And so what I realized is in fluid mechanics, there's this, you know, all the smart people of fluid mechanics are focusing on writing mathematical equations to describe turbulent flow, right? Which is super unpredictable and chaotic, but for some reason, people think we can write an equation that solves this problem. But when you're zoomed into the turbulent flow world, nothing makes sense. Everything is really weird. But then if you zoom out into the kind of laminar flow of the entire thing, it's like, oh, okay, this is like, there is some Newtonian equation that can describe this flow. And if you zoom out even more, there's this generalized, oh, it's all just pressure gradients, right? And so what I realized is, you know, computational fluid mechanics solves all of it from the bottom up, you know, laminar flow, turbulent flow, and then the whole kind of pressure flow. And however,
in a relevant level of emergence,
well, it's all computational fluid mechanics. Like when you're discretizing each little element of space and you're doing microphysics calculations, you can describe all of that, right?
In
It's
the
all
aggregate,
just-
basically? So it's the average?
Well, the average is the coarser and coarser you're kind of you are analyzing it,
Mhm.
it becomes more of an average, but you can zoom in to a point where it's like non-average, right? But I realized I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, quantum mechanics is similar to these turbulent flow physicists. And then you have like, you know, normal everyday physicists, which are Newtonian. And then you have these like, you know, general relativity guys who are like, yeah, it's all just pressure. Everything's like very abstracted that way. But it kind of got me thinking about, you know, Wolfram's project a lot more in that context of thinking of it like, yeah, it's not all quantum mechanics, right? It's not all turbulence. It's this computational. It's the computation of all of it, right? That really. So for me, it's this interesting thing where I feel like physics is now unified, or at least there's this unification to it. But you know, my YouTube algorithm is just everyone is trying to unify physics, right, with equations, and it feels silly to me now. Now that I'm like able to see that connection, but I mean, obviously, who knows? I could be wrong. Wolfram could be wrong, but it just seems so. It seems so sobering that to make that connection.
Well, wait. So I'm a little, maybe not confused, but like I have some follow-up questions. Isn't it the case that if it works, it works?
Yeah.
So where's the confusion coming from? It either does or it doesn't. No.
Well, I think the thing is like specifically about like turbulence is like there's a lot of mathematical theories that describe the turbulent flow, and they work under certain conditions. And so you can define this like piecewise theory that says under these conditions you use this equation, but it's kind of fragmented, right? And what I think I'm getting at here is that the need for us to have beautiful equations to describe everything together
Mm-hmm.
is a very human desire, right? It's a very human urge, and it's worked really well because you know, like when it works, it's very beautiful and it's captivating. But it's not like for us to expect the universe to just have these equations, or for God to have written these equations down. I think it's kind of silly, but if it works, it works. Yeah, that's true. But I think like deep down, I think there is this like, you know, like the three body problem, right? Like that's a computationally irreducible problem that can only be described with computations instead of equations. And it's just like, for me, it's like those little
Just ask polyamorous people.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen a successful, stable polyamorous relationship. But,
The three body problem, bro.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so
Anyway,
what were you
so
saying there? Yeah.
Yeah. But, you know, back to Melvin, like, I went back and started watching your Melvin interview. Man, that guy is so underrated. I really want to pick his brain. I think we should try to get Melvin on more.
Oh, easy. Yeah, Melvin's a good friend. He actually just was on a podcast and he asked me if I'm okay with being on the same podcast. So I'll be doing that podcast. And no, Melvin is like really, really close. So I can always get him on. I guess I would like to ask questions that weren't asked before and maybe like some newer explorations. I think I don't know what is it. I did not until I started looking like deeper into like the specifics of how things are done in science. I know this was always expressed, but you know, like sometimes somebody tells you something and you heard it before, but only when it becomes relevant to you that you all of a sudden really hear it. Like I've heard the phrase, you know, well, not the phrase, but like I've heard this idea that in science, it's actually very often kind of like this chaotic ecosystem, and it's not like one of these like, you know, super well arranged and it's like whatever is true and only the best ideas win. Like it's not like that. And I've heard this, and it never felt relevant. So I guess I never really fully clocked what it means. But then when I looked at the details of what Melvin is saying, and then how unnoticed his work is, even though he fully admits that he's not, like, he didn't really reinvent the wheel. He just kind of put a lot of things that already existed together in a way that makes sense. And all he really proposed is just a formulation of some of the rules from Shannon's theory of information, combined with some of Landau's work. And this is what the second law of infodynamics is. But when I started noticing how unnoticed he is, I was like, wait, what's going on? Like, literally, like, this whole thing where Eric Weinstein always complains about, like, they just don't pay attention to things that are, that they don't feel like it. It's literally, it feels sometimes like they're just saying, yeah, I don't feel like it. Like, yeah, I don't want to look at that. It's like, what? It's so weird. Like, it's so easy to.
I'm a little conflicted because, Sean Carroll once said, I think he said it with like Kurt Mongol on that podcast, which is like, we only have so many hours in a day. And for me to really get into someone else's theory, it's not one afternoon, right? It's weeks of time. And I can't do that. I'd rather work on my time, and I should have the right to do what I want with my time, right? It's our most precious thing. And I really sympathized with it, but then I also kind of thought, how do you not stay curious though? Because for me, if someone says, I have this theory, like I'm too curious to just ignore it, right? That's kind of where I come from. But
no, I think the truth is that I don't think it's true at all at this point. Like, you can actually have ChatGPT summarize all papers in a way that is granular enough for you to know if you should pay attention. So it's really not an excuse anymore. And you saw it in the conversation that you and I talked about between Eric and Sean, which is that your first impression was like, oh my God, Eric looked like an idiot. And then I said, wait a second. But Sean said he read the paper, and then all he really read from the paper was the opener, which is a full admission by Eric that, hey, this is a humility move, not a don't criticize me move. And then he took that and he just, like, he never answered one proposition that Eric gave that had to do with the technical stuff. Now, it's possible that maybe it was so, like, maybe he understood everything Eric was trying to say and he knew it was nonsense. So even for him, maybe it felt even just like engaging with it would be almost like a, beneath him or something. But they were there to debate the topic. You are on a show debating that topic. That is not the instance where you get to go, oh, this is beneath me to talk about that. And the fact is, Eric gave him a bunch of technical propositions that I didn't understand at all. But Sean had full liberty at that moment to say, oh, I'm glad you brought it up. This is why this isn't true. Or explain why he's not engaging with the technical stuff. He did not once engage with the technical stuff. And for somebody who read the paper, that's highly suspect. If he read the paper, he should have at least had a couple of pointers about the technical stuff. And you know this, right? If you read a paper deeply, you have some thoughts about the technicalities. And if it really is nonsense and you are an expert in the field, refuting it should be relatively easy, because coming up with the theory is hard. Refuting one is actually a lot easier. And as you saw, Kurt Mongol went deeply into it, and he himself said that this is literally the most comprehensive work he's ever seen any person do by themselves. So yeah, it's
Kurt Mongol also said in that iceberg series which he did, which was painfully long, he said that Weinstein, I don't know if you noticed this about Weinstein, but he does a lot of these like analogies, right?
Mm-hmm.
He speaks in analogies, and he just threw in a ton of these analogies into that paper that Kurt was like, what the fuck does this mean, right? Like, and so I think that kind of style of writing is definitely not super scientific and compressed. I think oftentimes I hate reading scientific papers because it feels like someone is compressing information and it's hard to read because it's all super technical. So it doesn't read like a novel, right? It reads like a math series. But one thing that Sean told Eric is that he kind of painted him off as a conspiracy theorist by suggesting that one man, being Witten, kind of like changed the field of physics forever, and I kind of thought, oh, that's kind of a fair criticism. Like, that's not really how science works. But then I started watching Kurt Mungle interview a lot of other string theorists, and I started realizing, oh, that is kind of how it happened. Like, there was this huge progress in the 80s and string theory that kind of went viral and took over physics, right? And I think I forget what physicist said this, but the reason why I think everyone was captivated with string theory, and I don't understand string theory at all. Like, I know some string theorists, and what I will say is I feel like they are so smart,
Yeah.
but they're retarded.
No, it is interesting though, because I have met one. He's a friend now. He's actually one of the first people I showed the laser to, and it is true. They really are like wicked smart, like crazy. You can feel
smart. They're too smart to where they kind of can. Well, so one thing that this guy said though is like the reason why string theory is so mesmerizing is because you do quantum mechanics on these strings, you do these operations, and you get relativity out of it, right? So there's this like very mesmerizing connection.
But it lives in anti-de Sitter space, which is not the space we live in. That's the biggest criticism,
yeah.
right?
And so one thing that Roger Penrose says why he just instantly dismisses it is because there's 11 dimensions, right? And these dimensions aren't like what we think of as like a different axis, but there's like little kinks in space, little tiny microscopic corners. And what Roger Penrose said is in order for us to even permeate that dimension, you need all the energy in the universe.
Yeah, but the universe has all the energy in the universe.
Yeah, but it's like almost like you're confining this. It's like you're force fitting this high dimensional space or 11-dimensional space to kind of work. And so I understand where Penrose is coming from. And even, Feynman was very critical of like, this isn't representing reality. But I understand why the math, like when you are shutting up in computing, I can understand how that phenomenon of deriving relativity from quantum mechanics through this framework is extremely like alluring. Like it's captivating. Like I understand that, but I think it comes from this problem of like when I was in undergrad, I sat in the front row of my quantum mechanics class, and I always was the first one to raise my hand and give an answer, right? And my professor said, like, you are always so wrong that it's statistically impossible to be this wrong all the time.
Wow.
He told me, you must, in front of the class, he's like, you must perfectly not understand quantum mechanics, right? Like, so whatever you want to say the exact opposite, and let's see if that works, right? He fucking told me this. This is a brilliant professor. And then I was like, embarrassed, but I'm like, I don't care. Like, I'm here to understand quantum mechanics. Like, and so I kept saying what I wanted to say, and he's like, you're wrong again. It's like, there's something going on, right? And I went to his office hours, and he's like, look, you're trying to understand this. Stop thinking. Look at the equations, and the equations will always tell you the right answer, right? And I started doing that, and I was like, okay, I'm always right. But instead of me saying the answer is, this, it ended up being the answer is this. Like, I was always asking a question, right? The questions always resulted in like weird questions, not like confidence in my answers. And so what he was essentially telling me is shut up and compute, right? Let the equations guide you. And I think that is where kind of physics kind of got lost, is in the shut up and compute. And then you have guys like Eric and Penrose who have always been critical of string theory that are thinking, and even Feynman, where it has to make sense ontologically, right? There has to be some like high level cohesive intuition built behind it.
Well, what is it? Yeah. What is it really? That's the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I from what I understand, so first of all, a couple of technical things that I want to clear with you. Are the dimensions in M theory not orthogonal? They are, right?
Yes, I do believe they are orthogonal.
Okay, so they are dimensions in every way. It's just that they are sure kinks in, well, they're just new spatial directions in which the strings can oscillate in. That's the simple kind of way of saying it.
Yeah.
But you're right that the way it was arrived at is that you started from a certain number of dimensions, and then you said, oh, these equations don't work. Oh, but if I add another spatial dimension, then this thing works all of a sudden. So I'm going to postulate there's another spatial dimension. And then it kept on going. And I think the only difference between supersymmetry and superstring theory is that one extra dimension, right? The supersymmetry is 10-dimensional, and then with like 9 spatial dimensions, 1 dimension of time, and string theory is 11-dimensional, 10 spatial dimensions, and 1 dimension of time. So that's what I, at least from what I remember, kind of like from this one little conversation they had about it. So is it ad hoc? Is it kind of like they said, oh, it's like we can't make this thing work mathematically, so we're just going to keep postulating, and then they forgot that mathematics is not always reality? Or are they actually discovering something fundamental that we can't currently with observation, but we are talking about something real? There's something about, even though with all the criticism and everything, there's something intuitively, there's something about M theory that feels correct. Maybe it's because it's so exotic and I like exotic things. But there is definitely this feeling that something is truly there. And I'm not sure. So I don't know how to make this point cogently. I'm not sure there's a really real way to tell. Just like you're saying, are the physicists so smart that they're R word? TikTok still bans us for things like this. That is retarded. No, it's not your bad. I just said it again. It's fine. I wish they would stop this. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that, for example, this, Eric has this style of conversation that is a super exaggerated, like he likes hyperbole, not in the sense of confabulation, but hyperbole. He likes to make things grandiose. I do too. I enjoy that. I like when people like have reverence for what they're talking about. I love that, right? Some people saying, oh, it's a bit too much, but it's a style preference. So Eric would always talk about this with a little bit extra, like kind of like he bumps it up one level up, right? In terms of the grandiosity of whatever it is that he thinks is grandiose. The most important thing that nobody's talking about, the most all that. But in one case, I think he actually is not exaggerating because he can't exaggerate. And maybe this is my exaggeration, I'm not sure, but my intuition tells me that it's not. Maybe the way he's expressing it is over-exaggerated. And that is about Ed Witten's intellect. So, he always talks about him as like, he's like Voldemort. Like he's the person who you don't say his name, like, because he's obviously that's kind of like his reading of the temperature of the science on the physics community. But I've watched older videos of young Witten. I don't know if you ever watched that when he's talking about what's his name? This legend physicist. It's like a Muslim name. I forget his name. Anyways, he was like a giant. I forget his name right now. Oh, Salam, maybe something like that. And they're sitting in an office and they're kind of talking. And Witten was his like early 20s. And that legend guy, I think Salam, but I don't want to mix it up if it was someone else. He's like not only a super established physicist, but he's already a legend, right? Like a true living legend. So obviously he doesn't have the Eric bug of like necessarily showing this like, oh my God, like who, but you can see that he's in awe. There you go. They sent us a thing. You can see that he's in awe when Witten is describing things. So I don't think Eric is exaggerating there. And in that sense, what I'm trying to say is that it's really hard to know, because I think there is this, or at least should be, a consensus to the fact that, yeah, he is probably one of the truly smartest people alive today. And if you are that smart, there's literally no one on the planet that can police you in that domain. No one can go in there, because no one is fast and as good and as good as you. And this criticism that Sean told Eric, he said, what do you think? Like, because, because he has this like, mental prowess, like somehow physicists just afraid to disagree with him. Physicists basically can think for themselves, and if they disagree, they would still disagree. I'm not sure that's true. I think when somebody is that much of a giant, there is an intimidating factor that people take into account, and they would assume they're wrong before they would assume there's something wrong with these equations. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, Brian Greene talks about it, right? Like when he saw it, he was hypnotized immediately. And even Jonathan Gerard,
Gerard, yes.
he said, it's amazing. Like it's a very beautiful framework that could infect a person's mind, right? Because it's so it has this sense of symmetry, which you were saying. But the problem is, and I think Leonard Susskind said it: breaking symmetry is the key, but the theory has so much symmetry built into it, right? And so it doesn't feel like the right theory. And it's amazing to hear Susskind say that because he was one of the fathers of it. But it's really interesting because I guess this theory is like, how long ago was the 80s? Is it 40 years now? No.
What M theory or
Yeah,
M theory? Like 87, I think.
87. Okay.
Let's see.
So like
Year
yeah, it's like our
of
age, yeah.
origin M theory.
So, anyways, yeah, I do think
Oh,
is
95.
M theory is 95.
First proposed in 95 by Edward Witten. Yeah. Second superstring revolution. Yeah. Okay. Continue.
Yeah, so it's not that old. I mean, yeah, I guess. But anyways, yeah, I do think there is such thing as being too smart. I do think that like Einstein wasn't like that, right? Einstein was kind of like this balance of being smart but extremely practical and grounded, right?
But we don't have like kind of like modern style videos of him where, you know what I mean? Like I don't think we have enough of a. Have you ever read anything by Einstein like directly?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's the problem, I think. Everything is kind of like a version of the. But yeah, it was a lot more down to earth. I feel like Edwin feels like more like an alien. Like it feels. It feels like. He just feels like he's on another planet. Like every time he talks, I found this talk, by the way. I'll share it here on YouTube, and so people can see what I'm talking about. Yes, and it was Salam, by the way. Salam, Siama, Witten, and Budenich. This is the conversation. So you guys can see this is young Ed Witten, and just look at the older scientists in the room who are like legends and watch their faces when he talks. It's just bananas. Like, and he's like, imagine that, like, he was just in the beginning of his career. It was just coming up, and he's already like, there's like reverence to his words and what he's saying. And people of that caliber, they don't appreciate that much. I'm sure they see a lot of brilliant students, right? There's a difference between just a brilliant student and between a genius, where you sit there and you're like, dude, oh my god, this person is like in another universe. Hold on. There was a point I really wanted to make to you, and I forget what it was. So I think that ultimately everything has to be verifiable, right? And one of the biggest criticisms of string theory is, by the way, I'm ignoring a lot of comments here. Don, I see your comments and I appreciate you. Slight twist in perspective. I saw all your comments about you seconding what Nico is saying. Meaning the point of reference, no word salad. I often know when a man is truly aware. Yeah, but I'm starting to get a little bit there's a little bit of a disenchantment, or is that the right word? That I'm experiencing with some of the stuff. Like I'm realizing that now enough people know how to fake it. They actually know how to fake the being aware versus actually being aware. They just kind of try a bunch of buzzwords and see what sticks, and if it sticks, it's almost like they do a cold read on the crowd. And there's just too many people that are doing this. So ultimately, we do have to verify with reality string. Yes, string theory. Hold on, I'm going through the comments because I think it might revive my memory as to what we were talking about. Theories of everything with Kurt Jamankel. That's what it was referred to. And unified field. Well, ultimately, there has to be some strings of symbols that should describe close to what the full system is. Yes, I do believe that, which would be the theory of everything. But it would have to include conscious moments as well, not just the description of the ultimate state of affairs. Someone explains real phenomena like and also somebody here came on and said something interesting while you were talking, Nico. Somebody came on and said they are a scientist in a different domain, and I think that person said that they don't believe they have an inner voice. So I want to see what's up with that. Delusion like invisible strings, invisible multiverse. Oh, what I wanted to say is that argument that you said that Penrose puts forth about but we don't see the extra dimensions, that one is strange to me. Because the whole premise of science is that you use the seen to describe the unseen. That's literally what science does, right? So it's true that ultimately somewhere the rubber has to touch the road, but just because we can't see or feel or measure currently these extra dimensions, that's not a reason to not accept not to look into a proposition. I feel that that's a little weird. It's like, yeah, everything we didn't know before we couldn't see.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think Roger just has a ton of clout at this point, and whenever, I mean, I always respect what he says, but I think you're right. I think there's a lot of holes. And Weinstein said, yeah, like Roger has a point, but he's missing the fact that it can be other dimensions. One thing too is I don't know if you saw, but I think her name is Sabina. She's a creator on YouTube.
Well, she's a physicist, yeah, Hofstadter.
Yeah. So she typically, what I notice is she typically shits on
everybody. Yeah. She basically shits on everybody.
She shits on everybody. Right?
That's her thing.
She recently, I think 2 days ago, released the Sean Carroll Weinstein breakdown.
Oh, I didn't even want to watch that because I already know her style. I already know what's going to be said.
Exactly. And so, but she said something interesting. She said, "Why is everyone obsessed with unifying? Like, just leave it alone. Like, just let it be." Right. And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting. I never heard."
Is it? That's like literally the holy grail of you want to get the shortest explanation to the most things. That's not weird. That's literally what the business theoretical physics is in. That's strange. I thought
it might have been like a meta Buddhist concept. Where I was
no, man. She just likes being edgy. She just likes to say the thing that it makes everybody go, huh? And she has a lot of clout because she's an actual physicist. But a lot of the stuff that it's like her style. That's what got her to where she is that she's the one that's gonna come in and bust your balls. Like that's her thing, right? And she was always like this.
The comment section is everyone is a little bit jaded by science to some extent. Even scientists are.
Yeah.
And she has like really tapped into that, right? And she's made her whole brand around that. And she has a very jaded story where she's like, she has her own story about it, which I'm sure there's some truth to it, but I'm also sure there's a lot of distortion around her experience with it. But yeah, I realized that I was like, oh, I'm just like clicking on rage bait when I watch her stuff. Like I'm always like shitting on someone.
She needs to get laid. that's her problem. That's a show I would watch. Sabina Gets Laid. That's a new YouTube channel. To change her whole tune. She just goes to like Italy and tries to get laid with like really hot guys and stuff like that. Imagine the physics of that. She's man. She's a hoot. So, but you see, this is the thing. She always criticizing all the people in a particular way. And by the way, sometimes she has some things with merit that usually when she's not talking about people, that's her strongest suit. Like when she was talking about the climate paper about the fires in LA, but that was about a topic, right? And she's even like, she's obviously super liberal, you know, and she's obviously would be totally on board with climate change and everything. But she's like, look, in this case, I looked at the data. This is the flimsiest way of analyzing the data. It's just nothing that was expressed here tracks what in fact is going on. She's really good at that, right? So she's kind of like the IRS. She's going to go through everything. She's going to find all the faults, and she's going to make sure it's exactly, you know, what it's supposed to be. But when she talks about people, the reason it gets boring is because, see, this is the thing. I don't need to watch the video about Eric and Sean because I know every single thing she's going to say. That's boring. She just has one note that she hits all the time. It's like, I want to see a range. Like, show me one, like, you know, show me one video in which she's like really like excited about something. Actually, I think there was one, which was surprisingly about some theoretical paper that was written about warp drive.
The one where she knits a sweater and dances.
Knits a sweater and dances. Oh, there was one where she knits a sweater and dances, and she sings the Universe song. That one is glorious. She sings the Monty Python Universe song. It's amazing. But I would recommend that one, and I would recommend what was the other one I said? Oh yeah, so it's basically it's kind of like the warp drive is the only one where I ever saw that she's kind of saying. Obviously, she didn't like. She's not excited. That's not an emotion she knows. But she was basically kind of saying, "Yeah, it's interesting because there seems to be a theoretical framework that actually makes sense here," which is interesting all by itself. But yeah, I guess all I'm saying is that if a creator if I already know everything they're gonna say about it before I watch it, I think that's a failure as a creator. But then again, I think that at least currently, with my level of development as a creator, I think it's also true about me.
You
I
know
think
what though? Like when I watch any Joe Rogan podcast, I've watched so many Joe Rogan podcasts that I know exactly
What he's gonna say.
gonna say.
yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
so it's this very challenging thing where you have to constantly be growing as a creator and taking in information, or else you become repetitive.
Yeah. I guess I have to reinvent myself. What kind of wild thing should I do next?
Yeah.
Just show up in like start like what's his name? Sean O'Malley, and just do like a crazy hair or something.
Yeah. I think you should sneak in the CERN and like.
Oh, I'd be like
everyone
what?
over.
Yeah, like one of these YouTubers that like pranks people, but like I go to like really smart people's places and I prank them in ways that are very sophisticated. Like I tell them we just found I create this. It's like a Mr. Beast thing, but it's like a whole production where you just like hire other actors that are pretending to also be scientists there, and then you corner one scientist who's like really known there, and you go like, "Didn't you hear?" And he's like, "What?" Everybody are like running around, and it was like, "What's going on?" And then everybody who he meets, who are all paid actors, they're like, they found it. They found it, like something big. Like they found it. They found it. Just go wild with it.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, we have the God particle, we need the Jesus particle, and the Holy Spirit.
They found the
particle.
Jesus particle. They found
Yeah.
the Buddha particle. What? Who was
You
looking
should
for
be
that?
the one who says they found the Jesus particle. I'm here. Or just crawl out of the accelerator. Yeah.
Okay, there was a couple of things I wanted to open up with you, but I honestly, hey, Benevolent Sky, good to see you. I actually don't recall what anymore, and I think I have to adjourn in a moment. What, dude? There was one that I really wanted to ask you about. Drives me crazy. Something actually. Well, there was another thing, but this one is. I think you would have a relatively simple answer. Simple way of answering. Why is quantum mechanics hard? Like, what is it about that is hard?
I think the reason why it's hard is because so you have this Schrodinger wave equation for everything, right? So a Schrodinger wave equation, it's a second order differential equation there's a energy field, there's a potential energy term, there's a kinetic energy term, and then there's a position term. And the simplest form to solve is called the time independent Schrodinger equation. So there's no time variable. But when you add the time variable, you have all these functions varying with time, and there's probabilities with all of them. And because it's a wave equation, there's a property where position and momentum, it's actually a property of waves. It's not a weird property, actually. So if there's something, it has to do with the wave where if it's broad, it's there's something that has to do with knowing position and momentum. You can't know them both, right? Because of the property of a wave. I wish I could kind of like.
Well, it's the uncertainty principle, just as applied, right? But I guess so. Would the short answer be just the number of factors you always have to balance out in every single equation you're trying to solve?
Probabilistic. So whenever you do anything, you're doing operators. So you're calculating probabilities. And the thing is that it's like a very like nonlinear physics kind of thing where, and then that's only for like one particle. So now if you're talking about like a molecule with like multiple particles, it becomes hard. So they can, you can solve like an electron and a proton. That's called a hydrogen atom. You can solve that. You can solve the helium atom. But then lithium becomes extremely complicated because the wave equation becomes complicated because all those functions become coupled. And so
isn't that
this like
isn't that what we
complex.
wait? But isn't that why we have Feynman diagrams, or that's a completely different usage?
So Feynman diagrams is interesting. I never got super deep into it, but I think it has to do with I still think it works for like particles and subatomic particles, but I think it captures. It's a way of capturing like the electromagnetism or the electrodynamics of particle interactions. And I think it's a very powerful framework for not using equations, but it's still rooted in math.
It has equations. Like every Feynman diagram has an equation that describes it.
It is, yeah. It's rooted in math, but it's a very like nice like kind of notation for that. And quantum mechanics has a very similar thing. They call it the Bra-Ket notation, which is like a very condensed form of dealing with these operators and dealing with these things. But quantum mechanics is just, it's so nonlinear and it's just so complicated and coupled. And you often don't see the answer until you solve it. And then it's like, okay, like, I guess that's the answer. And then people are like, yeah, that is the answer. And you're like, it's just not satisfying. It's just nonlinear. And so there is no like projectile physics intuition that you can derive from it, or like there's no like really first principle thinking, because when things get complicated, it's just like, okay, let's just see what the answer is. I'm not going to guess it. I'm just going to like compute it, right? And so, that's why, and, there's all this lore about quantum mechanics, right? Because there's all these like really smart people saying no one understands it. But I think it's because it's not really humanly accessible, because our computers don't think non-linearly like that. Also, it's kind of like computationally irreducible, where it's so much. But now I've let it go. I've let go of this like, oh, I want to understand quantum mechanics. I'm just like, quantum mechanics is quantum mechanics. That it is what it is, like I don't think that's the frontier. I just think it's like a layer of computation that things behave this certain way, but I no longer view it as like the frontier of physics, right?
Yeah, no, clearly that it's incomplete, and I also think, well, I mean, I think quantum field equations is really the standard model is what took over, right? Which is not. I always thought that that's just a more like robust version of quantum mechanics. I've only recently learned they're not the same. So
yeah, for a while I thought they were both really deeply connected.
No, I'm sure they're connected, but from what I understood, it's almost like a completely different frame that quantum mechanics is included in, but it's not it's almost like a completely different way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's like an experimental like flavor of that. So anyways, but I don't know, like there's like these very simple like the double slit experiment I still think is very interesting. It still kind of boggles my mind. But yeah.
Check. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for that answer. The two. 1 second. Videos attached to this live. To the of this live. There you go. I also think humans are brilliant. Do I think AI will solve it before humans do? My position is that AI will not solve anything that we won't. We will be the one solving things. AI will arrange information better, bring it together closer, faster. But I am very skeptical of it becoming exactly the kind of agent that we are. But we'll see. We'll find out. 2027, right?
The last thing I'll say is I just posted something last night on Discord, which
Mhm.
is a bunch of AI safety engineers collaborated on a paper together,
Mhm.
and they were essentially saying, "Hey, AI, the chain of thought reasoning. So AI has this kind of like chain of thought reasoning, and the way that they've been monitoring it is they have it like kind of like a proof of work. They say show your work, and we will write these functions to monitor it. And they recently realized, oh, we're actually not able to track the chain of thought of these things, and so it's getting to a point where it's like, how do we monitor the thinking of this thing? So it's kind of doing something, I think, computationally irreducible. Like it's just kind of drifting. So it is kind of an interesting time right now, because I think maybe in the Terminator, I think this would be like a point, in the movie where it's like, it's starting to kind of be unmonitored. It's hard to monitor, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, when you can no longer track it. But I think that was already the case for a long time. We just pretend that we know what to track because we're only looking at the things we can track. I think we don't realize. Yeah, I think we don't realize we're not tracking a lot of things right now. But I mean, we'll see. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic. That's all you can be. All right, so we will adjourn for today. Nico, you're always a blessing. Thank you, brother. Everybody follow Nico on TikTok, NIKOMACKAY, NIKOMKAY. Wait, NIKOMACKAY. Yeah, my dyslexia today is like crazy. Nico is a really good friend who also happens to be a scientist, and he's always very humble about everything, and always fun to learn from you, brother. So thank you so much for everything. If you guys want to follow me across all platforms, you'll be Danny Goller on Instagram and TikTok. It'll be Goller Danny, just swap them on X. It'll be Laser X83 on Twitch, and Dango Thoughts on YouTube. DANGO Thoughts on YouTube. You can also join the membership program that gives you access to the weekly lives that are for members only, aside from these daily lives, in which we dive much deeper into all kinds of subjects. This week is going to be a fun one, so come join membership now so you can get access to that. You can also join from the second tier and up, which will give you access to Zoom calls with me once a month, which are very, very private currently. So it's wonderful. It gives us an opportunity to talk basically very privately on Zoom. Just make sure you email me if you sign up from the second tier and up. The email appears there if you sign up. What else? Dango Thoughts, DANGO Thoughts. You can also still contribute to the film. You can find the trailer of the movie The Discovery on Dango Thoughts on YouTube, and you can find the link to our GoFundMe page there, and you can donate there. I want to come join our Discord community, which the links to which you can find both on the main page on YouTube and also on TikTok in my link tree. And I'm gonna remind everybody that if you have the capability and if you haven't already donated in the last few days and you have $1 to spare, I would highly encourage you to do so now. You don't have to, of course, and only if it goes with great ease and with flow and love, you can donate $1 here. And every $1 you're gonna donate, I'm gonna immediately transfer all that money to the person of need, who in our case currently is Casey. I should probably do some kind of a little banner or something so I don't have to repeat this all the time, so that we can just streamline this, but we'll figure it out. If you have the possibility, please do so, and I will pass all of that to Casey, who was very grateful for our donations. Am I forgetting something? Our website, codeofreality.com, in which you can find our merch, lasers, and also the protocol and everything you need to know about the experiments. And stay tuned. A new show on the same channel. A new show is coming with a lot of wonderful, wonderful guests, and I'm very excited to share that with you. And I'm going to show you something after we're done, Nico. I'm going to text you something. So thank you so much for being here. I want to mention our wonderful, wonderful moderators across all platforms. We have Chris, and we have Ebony and Guru and Jessica. I really appreciate you guys. Without you, this would not be possible with the great ease that we're going here. Benevolent Sky, who also became a moderator on TikTok, appreciate you. I want to appreciate the community that is always here. If you're old, if you're new to the community, you're welcome, and I appreciate you for making this what it is. And thank you guys for always being amazing. Chill Shot is asking $1. Yes, so we're donating once a day. We're donating every few days. I would encourage people to just donate $1, and these proceeds immediately go to a person of need. Currently, we're donating to a person in the name of Casey, who is living on barely anything, and he kind of lives in Mexico currently, and is really struggling. But every dollar goes directly to him. Uses for food and shelter. So we already donated quite a bit in the last few days, and we need just a little bit more to raise it to $150 to get it to his monthly quota, and then we can move on to the next person. You can always donate here, and every dollar you guys donate in full goes to Casey, all of it. So you always know that it goes to a good place. That's it. So with that, I'm going to tell you guys good night. See you guys tomorrow. Peace and love. Ciao. Have a good night, everybody.